No.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And Saudi, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been amazing last couple of days here. My name is Ankush Sabharwal, founder and CEO of CoRover.ai, a Gen AI-powered conversational AI platform being used by a billion users. Yeah, so inviting my esteemed fellow panelists, Dr. Hend Al-Khalifa, Professor and Advisor, SDAIA. Thank you. Roberto, Baldizon, Director, Ilmi. Dr. Azra, Ismail, Co-founder, Market Ghat, and Assistant Professor, Emory University. Thank you very much. So let me straight away start with very pressing, important question. How can youth harness the power of AI to not just improve their academic performance, but also to use their knowledge and skills and solve real-world problems and make positive impact in their communities and beyond? I'll start with you, Dr. Hend. You just speak.
It's working. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this great question. It's actually a very important question at the same time. So basically, we are living an era of AI, and our community is actually basically driven by AI. So our youth need to have the AI literacy so that they can basically practice what is AI ethically, responsibly, and basically the effect of AI on the community. So what I am seeing now is to basically focus on AI literacy a lot and enhancing this in our students and in the youth perspective as well. So this is what I think is very important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Roberto, you want to add?
I love that response. And thank you, Professor. I would add, and yes, AI literacy, I'm so happy you started with that lead. I would add media and information literacy. And I think it's not only the youth, but the entire ecosystem. As we saw when Google came out, I think that the value of a more beautiful question as a title of a book is paramount in the case of learning and being supported by AI tools, where whatever the quality of that question is, so is the response that you get back. And I think to be literate in the information that you're receiving, in the media that you're in front of, and also of how these tools respond to you, depending on those questions, is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Dr. Hen and Roberto already said. They gave some great starting points, right? So I'll talk a little bit more about the practical kind of everyday. What does this mean if you're someone who's trying to figure out what to do with these tools, right? So there's, I think, two aspects to this. One is tools that are out there like ChatGPT, right? So these are tools that have become very publicly accessible. It's great for things like brainstorming ideas, thinking about maybe improving on some piece of text. You want to improve its grammar, you want to rewrite it in another way, all of these things, right? But asking the right question to these systems, right? Understanding what kinds of responses it's going to produce based on how you use it, understanding where it's appropriate to use it, where is it not, what are going to be some of the ethical issues with these. These are very important things to understand and should be part of how we think about AI literacy moving forward, because we have these tools and we can actually practice with these tools. But the other aspect of it is kind of the hidden systems that are in our world, right? A lot of us encounter AI systems without even realizing it. When you go on a search engine, when you're using Amazon to buy something, right? Or when you're on YouTube, all of these recommendations are generated by AI. And sometimes it's in one way great. It kind of directs you to the information that's maybe most useful for you, but it can also be sometimes misleading or misdirect you in directions maybe that's that's harmful, or maybe kind of bring you to information that's actually inaccurate, right? So these are things to be very conscious of and aware of as you're kind of in your everyday, starting to encounter these systems. So those are some of the kind of more practical things I wanted to bring up as well.
Absolutely. So if I have to add, I would say, see, if you have to solve a real-world problem, it's very important to first see what are the real-world problems which are, I think, worth enough to solve, big enough to solve, and of course with adding commercial value to it, and then see what AI algorithm or what tools we should use to solve. But yeah, so finding real world problem is important, I think. So maybe since let me continue with you, Dr. Azra. So what techniques or ethical considerations I think we should imply while selecting AI-powered tools for classrooms, considering the data privacy and biasness, if any, in the algorithms?
Yeah. So I think a lot of these tools that are kind of becoming more publicly used are very opaque. So you can't make sense of what is the data these systems have been trained on and how, like, what kinds of models they have been used to build them, right? And what that means is for someone who wants to understand why it's giving a certain output, understand why it's giving a certain response, it's very hard to make sense of it. So I think like there's more of a public push also that's required to make these systems more open, more transparent, have institutions like SDAIA that are kind of trying to develop more kind of work in this area, but also in terms of from a user perspective, if you're using, let's say, again, like a ChatGPT system, because that's become very, very kind of accessible to us now, you'll notice that if you put in certain kinds of queries, if you ask something related to maybe an engineer, it may make assumptions of what is the gender of that person, or if it's a nurse, they might like assume it's a woman, right? So there's some inherent biases that are built into these systems because of the data that it's been trained on, because of like the biases we also have in our society, right? So these are all things to be cautious of, to think about, because now if you bring it to a setting which is a learning setting where kids are using these systems, they are going to start learning these biases as well. So it's very important that we are really being careful about how these systems
Absolutely.
are being used.
So Dr. Hend, you want to add an important topic of ethics?
Yes, regarding the ethics, I have read the UNESCO report about AI and ethics. They actually mentioned something important.
You said there is a subject?
Very important about
Wow.
actually enabling or disabling the students who are above, I think, 10 years old or whatsoever, not to access these tools before having someone to direct them. And this is very important to have actual regulations. I have seen also the UK have, before 2 weeks, they actually published regulations of how to use these tools like ChatGPT, Bard, or whatsoever. So having a good regulations, here in Saudi Arabia, we have a good report from SDAIA about AI in education. It actually highlights the 3 pillars of education, which is the student, the teacher, and the ecosystem itself, the educational ecosystem, basically, and provides some kind of regulations and some kind of instructions on how to use these tools.
Wonderful. No, congratulations. I think then Saudi would be one of the very few countries who have kind of regulations around AI. Wonderful. Roberto, how do we ensure teachers and students are equipped to use AI tools, and how do we identify or how do we measure the effectiveness of these AI tools?
So I am fortunate to be here and to be here now in Saudi Arabia and working at Ilmi Science Discovery and Innovation Center, which is currently being incubated within the Misk Foundation. And one of our mandates is that of accessibility, and not just geographical or socioeconomic accessibility, but in general accessibility so that all our learners have equal access to information tools and resources. And going to the ecosystem where these learners are, for us, is a target group of 6 to 16-year-olds that our chairwoman is very keen on ensuring that they are able to access what Ilmi can bring to them. Their ecosystem is larger than just where we are going to be impacting them. And taking from you, Professor, I think the first layer of that is the government regulations and policies, and also guidance. At the moment, there is various levels of guidance being given to students at different schools, at different districts, cities, and countries that it's well over. The OECD has an ongoing study of this, and right now there are about between 60 and 70 of these different regulations at play in different countries around the world. Yet the tool is the same. And I think that calls to us to have these conversations, and where Ilmi is leveraging its own ecosystem is by having these conversations with bodies like the UNESCO Millet Institute, which is based in between Egypt and Barcelona. We're in direct connection with a university there to ensure that what we are doing for our learners is keeping pace with where the world is at the moment and where these tools are. And I think that's one way to begin to address this disparity that can occur between those who are able to access this technology and those who are not able to for various reasons. So that's one way where we are hoping to eventually make a global impact on this.
Got it. Dr. Azra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think in my work, we do a lot of activities directly with teachers and students. So I have a non-profit, Make a Ghat, which is based in India, and we do a lot of hands-on education in different kind of STEM elements. And one of those that we've been increasingly exploring is around AI. And it's interesting because on one hand, we're seeing a lot of organic uptake as well, where teachers are starting to try and use these systems. They're trying to do it in their local languages. A lot of kids are trying to use it sometimes for homework and things like that. And I think one thing we are missing, of course, is not just like regulation, like that in itself is missing, but also like what are the guidelines for a school or a university to be using these systems. You can't, some kind of institutions have gone one direction where they're like, okay, you're banned from using this, in assignments or in class. And I don't think that's necessarily productive, because these kids are going to go into the world and they are going to be either asked to use these systems or expected to be using these systems, and people who do will have an edge over them. So I think like more kind of integrated understandings of what does this mean. Like, yes, there are going to be challenges bringing this into the classroom. Maybe for a certain age, we don't want them to be encountering these tools. But when they are ready and when the tools are ready, what is the right approach to introduce them into their lives slowly, very, very kind of thoughtfully? And what is the role of the teacher or the facilitator then in the classroom to guide them in that journey? Yeah. So I think those guidelines, those practical kind of solutions are still missing and really needed right now.
So yeah, if we continue, Dr. Hend, do you personally think this AI is really kind of stopping human thinking, and would that impact the natural thinking, cognitive thinking of humans?
I think this question actually can have two sides. You can use AI as an assistant. Absolutely. And you can use an AI as a replacement.
Absolutely.
As an assistant, I'm also a university professor. I'm using AI on a daily basis to do research, to help me prepare for my slides, whatsoever. But at the same time, I can basically do some work that doesn't actually require my interference on this respect. So use AI wisely, and at the same time, always review what the AI actually producing for you, because I have seen a lot of students who are basically submitting their homeworks without even checking what is generated by the AI. Yeah. So it's a lot of hallucination that has been said by Dr. Azar, and it's actually affecting their way of thinking, because one of the 21st century important skills to have for the youth and for the new generation is to be critical thinker and have the good choice of doing the next step. So with the AI, yes, use it, but use it with caution. Don't leave it actually to manipulate your thinking. You need to have also your input.
Yeah. So then what's your view on, as Dr. Azra said, so maybe we let them use AI tool after a certain age, maybe when they develop.
Exactly, and this is the recommendation by UNESCO. They asked for actually putting regulations about the age of usage for AI.
Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, if you continue, do you think AI can help teachers teach better, or is that happening already?
What I am seeing now, it's actually they started basically having customized chatbots for teaching, and the best example I can mention now is Khan Amigo from Khan Academy, which actually is very important chatbot who actually personalize based on the students' requirements. So this is one example of many examples I have seen recently about how to use AI in the teaching process itself.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Roberto, what's your opinion?
I would like to add, you know, teaching and learning is not an exact science, right? That's why you have so many different curricula, so many different approaches. You have disruptors in you know the schoolhouse paradigm of being brought in by ALT schools in Silicon Valley, or even Elon Musk's Astra school in Starbase. There's so many different models being tried out there because we can't define where that aha moment comes for a child, or for a young learner, or for any learner. And one thing that has come across in the longevity studies that have been done in K-12 classrooms is that technology, its effect can't be measured accurately, but what you can tell across time is that technology is an amplifier.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever it is you put it to work in, it'll amplify what's happening there. And without the regulations, guidelines, and policies in a school system, it will amplify what may not be working in that classroom, sadly. However, what they are also, and just today I was reading an article on research that has recently been published around the use of, you know, there's always this ongoing commentary back and forth on the use of screens for children in learning, or just in general. Does it do damage? Does it benefit? And there's arguments on both sides. But one thing that they are finding is that it doesn't matter the length of time that they spend on the screen, but what is it that they're doing with that screen? If they're just passively scrolling, that is not engaging.
So the short videos
function,
and
right.
So now,
but if they're actually doing, you know, like you mentioned, Khamigo or Duolingo has a ABC and mathematics for children and other things. If you're actually engaging in learning and using that screen, then that's what the product you're going to get. So it will continue to have this trend, right?
Maybe,
and that's as best as we can do in research in K-12.
Maybe an idea now coming out of your talk is maybe one short video app, but only for education. Fun with education, right? You keep scrolling probably, but every scroll you get to learn. Maybe anyone wants to pick that up. So Dr. Azra, so Roberto had mentioned earlier. So what do you think, how AI can actually help leverage the education so that education will be leveraged across, irrespective of socio-economic development? How you think we should use AI to?
Right. So I think one thing that's been interesting for me to observe is a lot of the challenges that people used to face around communication, right? So sometimes the way you write or speak can shape how another person perceives you. These tools have kind of emerged as a great way to kind of level some of those gaps. So I'm seeing it being used a lot for simple things around improving writing, improving how you frame a sentence, relating to training, there's also been use now for simulations, right? So let's say you're a teacher, or you're kind of entering a new workspace, and you're going to be put in situations that are maybe challenging, right? So I've seen it, for instance, in being used for training doctors on how to handle patients. So these systems are being used to simulate those situations, and then you get to kind of respond, and then the system tells you then, like, you did well, or here's where you can improve, and things like this. So I think some of those I think are really interesting, because often the gap there used to be that you don't have access to the right training or the right networks to be able to get that kind of experience, and now you're kind of getting in this. It's still simulated, it's not perfect, because ideally you want to do this with humans, but in the absence of that, this is kind of a nice proxy to at least give you your foot in the door, and kind of open up those spaces. The other thing I've also seen is a lot of people, of course, using it to access questions and essentially access the web in some way. I don't know if that's necessarily the best kind of use here, just because...
At least ChatGPT has stopped giving those kind of answers.
Yeah, because just so many issues that have come up with that. But I think this more kind of like communication, training, these are places where there's a lot of value to be added. Personalized learning is another one, where based on where you are in your learning journey, having information that's meeting you where you're at. I think those are opportunities.
No, absolutely. Even if I add, see, now there is education written script in different languages. Now with AI, I think we can learn anything, right? So with the real-time translation apps using AI. So irrespective which language we know, at least one language everyone knows. Even if they cannot read or write, they can hear and understand.
Well, I think these tools in education at the moment are helping us lower that threshold to the 2 sigma problem, right? Where now we are getting closer to that single tutor per learner, 1-to-1 ratio that is not scalable in a classroom.
Absolutely.
And that's where the personalization is actually very helpful, because it automates a lot of processes for a teacher, but it also allows learners to be met with content where they are at that moment in their learning process.
Wonderful. So both the professors, did you fear any time the AI is going to take your job? I didn't have to ask this question.
I doubt now, but maybe later when we retire, no worries.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Dr. Azra?
Yeah, I don't think... I think if...
No, it's not about you think or not. Did you fear any time?
No, because our job as professors is not to... if it's so replaceable, then it should be replaced, right? Yeah. It's not, because you're really nurturing young people. You're trying to understand, help them think critically. I think this is like an important skill that no AI is going to teach you. So those are the places where you really need human educators.
Yeah, and it's not just the education. It's about how it's getting empowered, right? The human-centric part of it. Otherwise, what was the need of coming all the way, right? So no one can replace the benefit of meeting face-to-face. And the way teacher explains that emotion part is also kind of very, very important.
Absolutely. I think AI can only do so much, and is at the moment for the process of teaching and learning, for transferring not just knowledge and bits of fact, but actual how do you behave in this ecosystem. AI at the moment cannot.
So is it fair to say AI will not replace the job of teachers, but AI, with AI,
amplifies
the person who knows AI will replace the job of a teacher who doesn't know AI. So the teachers should kind of leverage AI to teach well and impart education well, probably. Thank you very much, everyone. Lovely answers. I learned a lot. I'm sure others would have learned. Thank you very much for such a nice audience. Thank you.